it's Luisa Lyons here, midwife and IBCLC lactation consultant. Here's a few tips on getting your baby off to a great start with your baby's first feed. So the first thing to think about is getting as much antenatal information as you can about feeding. And there are loads of resources available for this from the NHS website, your local midwife, an IBCLC lactation consultant antenatal session, private antenatal education classes, either online or in person, loads of written information, of course, the good old World Wide Web. I really recommend websites such as kellymom.com and breastfeeding.support as really, really good quality websites to have a good look at. So getting prepared antenatally about what to expect, what's normal, tips and tricks on positioning and attachment, and practicing this beforehand so that you're not trying to learn a whole new skill when you've just given birth. Also thinking about antenatal hand expression, so you can hand express your breast milk from 36-37 weeks into little syringes, and your community midwife can give you information all about this and also provide you with syringes. And at the hospital I work at, we've written a full information sheet about this, which you can search for online, just putting in the search bar NNUH antenatal hand expression. But do get in touch with your local midwife in your area if you'd like more information on antenatal hand expression and colostrum harvesting, which can be really beneficial. So you can take your milk into hospital with you if you're having a hospital birth, or you've got it there ready for a home birth. And you can store your breast milk in the fridge for up to 5 to 8 days, or if you're not going to use it in the next 5 to 8 days, you can pop it in the freezer in 1ml syringes or 2ml syringes. So after thinking about antenatal hand expression, thinking about the type of birth, and obviously when you're pregnant you don't know what type of birth you're going to have, but thinking about the things that can affect baby's first feed. So perhaps you've ended up or you've planned to have an epidural for pain relief in labour, and just being aware that sometimes that can slow down the baby's feeding responses, or sometimes it has absolutely no effect at all. So thinking about that. Also the type of birth you have, if you end up with an intervention such as an instrumental birth like a Ventouse, Kiwi or forceps, again that can all affect your baby's ability to feed in the short term, so making sure you ask for and get early help with that if that's an issue for you. Also thinking about whether you've got IV fluids on the go and how that might affect things like early weight loss, which we'll talk about in another video, and also things around your birth, such as if you've lost a higher amount of blood than normal, that can sometimes affect. So making sure you get skilled, good quality help early on and reaching out for that support. And obviously the gold standard support is an IBCLC lactation consultant, available in some hospitals and birthing areas on the NHS, but in some areas it's only available privately. So just seeing what options you've got and learning that ahead of time as much as possible for your own particular chosen birthplace. So thinking about what to expect and antenatally, also then thinking about positioning and attachment, and as I mentioned, planning that and practicing that antenatally is really good. So really important for breastfeeding to get off to a good start is really effective positioning of the baby at the breast and attachment of the baby to the breast, particularly using things like laid back breastfeeding positions, or sometimes known as biological nurturing. So have a little search of that and look at the information about laid back breastfeeding and biological nurturing, which can be really, really successful, not just for the first feed, but for any breastfeeding challenges, or just as a more relaxed way of breastfeeding. So thinking about after the birth, we try to protect that time. We called it the golden hour where I work. So we really protect that time for you and your baby as a golden opportunity for your baby to learn to breastfeed. We recommend skin to skin contact for all babies, whether they're being breastfed or bottle fed or mixed, as it really helps to stimulate their feeding reflexes, keep them lovely and warm, help with their oxygen levels, their heart rate to be relaxed, helps them to release endorphins, helps you also to release endorphins for pain relief and oxytocin, as well as stimulating prolactin, the mothering hormone, which of course is important for milk supply, but really important for mothering instincts and to help you feel calmer and more connected to your baby. So prolonged, uninterrupted skin-to-skin contact is the gold standard. We recommend that if your baby's being weighed, they're either weighed early or late. So either born and then straight weighed and then place skin to skin, or ideally born and placed skin to skin until at least the first feed, or at least the first hour, or as long as you want, and weighing can wait. I know that usually relatives are desperate for information, and we ourselves are often desperate to know how much the baby weighs, but really prioritising that golden hour where possible. Obviously, if your baby's unwell and has ended up being treated on the neonatal unit, that's not always possible, but as soon as it is possible to hold your baby again, really prioritising prolonged skin-to-skin contact, because it's so beneficial, not just for feeding, but also for you, psychologically and physically. So thinking also about frequent feeds, so offering at least 8 to 12 feeds in 24 hours is a normal amount of feeding, and making sure that baby is having good urine and stool output. So checking in with what a normal urine and stool output is for the stage you're at, because it changes. What we expect on day 0 is different to day 1, is different to day 2, and so on. So reading up antenatally about what's normal and getting in touch with us if you're not sure. Don't panic. If things are tricky, and they often are, babies often don't latch ever so well initially, try not to panic. Try to remain nice and calm. If you've practiced hypnobirthing or relaxation or mindfulness techniques, using those techniques to help you stay calm. And also just trying to have an unhurried and calm approach to your baby, using biological nurturing or laid back breastfeeding techniques, and also stimulating your milk supply by hand expressing. So that you can keep your supply going, and also feed that express breast milk that you might express by hand or later by pump to your baby by other methods such as syringe feeding with the finger. So in hospital we can do finger feeding with your baby or cup feeding. Avoiding teats and dummies is also really important for young babies. And so we recommend that, so we don't want to interrupt the natural process of learning to breastfeed. But things that would indicate problems with feeding are sore nipples, blocked ducts, mastitis, a lack of normal stooling or pooing, and a lack of normal urine, excessive weight loss over sort of 7 to 8% on day 3, and not enough weight gain. And I'm going to cover that in another video. Please do reach out for good quality, educated and informed support from an IBCLC or equivalent breastfeeding counsellor to make sure that you get off to the best start possible to feeding for you and your baby.